Rizal's annotation of Morga's Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas. What is annotation and successos? Annotation, a short explanation or note added to a text or image, or the act of adding short explanation or notes. Successos, work of an honest observer, a versatile bureaucrat who knew the workings of the administration from inside. Who is Antonio de Morga? Spanish conquistador, a government official and historical anthropologist, author of Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas. He wrote the first lay formal history of Philippine conquest by Spain, the first to write and also the first to publish a Philippine history, a doctorate in canon law and civil law. Morga's purpose for writing Sucesos. The deeds achieved by our Spaniards is the discovery, conquest, and conservation of the Filipinas Islands, as well as the various fortunes that they have from time to time in the great kingdoms and among the pagan peoples surrounding the islands. The book Sucesos narrates the history of wars, intrigues, diplomacy, and evangelization of the Philippines in a somewhat disjoint way. Modern historians have notes that Morga has a definite bias and would often distort facts or even rely on invention to fit his defense of the Spanish conquest. What leads Rizal to Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas? Rizal was an earnest seeker of truth, and this marked him as a historian. He had a burning desire to know exactly the conditions of the Philippines when the Spaniards came ashore to the islands. His theory was that the country was economically self-sufficient and prosperous. He believed that the conquest of the Spaniards contributed in part to the decline of the Philippines' rich tradition and culture. In 1889 to 1890, Rizal spent several months in London to do his historical research on pre-colonial Philippines and to improve his English language skills. According to Dr. Ferdinand Blumentritt, the Spanish historian Dr. Antonio Morga wrote Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, which was published in Mexico in 1609. Rizal laboriously hand-copied the whole 351 pages of the Sucesos. He sifted, weighed, evaluated each and every proof he could find in books, manuscripts, documents, and other records from the vast British Museum's Filipiniana collection. He believed the conquest of the Spaniards contributed in part to the decline of the Philippines' rich tradition and culture. Rizal entertained the idea that it had a lively and vigorous community enriched with the collective and sensitive art and culture of the native population. Rizal's first consideration for the choice of Morga. First, the original book was rare. Second, Morga is layman, not a religious chronicler. Third, Rizal felt Morga to be more objective. Rizal proceeded to annotate every chapter of the Sucesos. In Chapter 1, Rizal footnotes ran over 3/4 up to the page. He annotated even Morga's typographical errors. He commented on every statement that could be nouns in Filipinos' cultural practices. His extensive annotations number no less than 639 items, almost 2 annotations for every page. Rizal Annotations of Morga. The original Spanish text of 1609 had never been printed in full. Rizal edition came off the press of Garnier Hermanos in Paris in 1889, reissued in photo offset reproduction in 1958. English translation of Rizal Morga in 1961, Jose Rizal National Centennial Commission. Everything is reproduced in full with no censorship. The annotation to Morga should be made not by a foreigner but by an Indio. 3 kinds of Spanish delusions about the Philippines. First, Filipinos were an inferior race. Second, Filipinos were not ready for parliamentary representation and other reforms. And last, denial of equal rights can be compensated by strict dispensation of justice. Two categories in Rizal's annotation. First, Rizal corrects the original one, the straightforward historical annotations. And second, historical base reflect his anti-clerical bias. Both have their own views on geography, society, faith, and economy during the pre-colonial era. Rizal agreed to some of Morga's claims but disagreed to some and made further corrections and comments. Morga was not knowledgeable on Filipino culture and traditions. That's why Rizal made it his duty properly annotate Morga's writings. Three purposes for Rizal's annotation. First, awaken the unconsciousness of the Filipinos of their glorious ways of the past. Second, correct what has been distorted about the Philippines due to the Spanish conquest. And last, prove that the Filipinos are civilized even before the coming of the Spaniards.